On Wednesday, July 21st, I had the opportunity to go speak at Gallipolis City Schools Board of Education. I wasn't the first choice. Mark Paquita, who's a candidate for U.S. Senate in 2022, was. I'm working with Mark. He couldn't make it, so I became the guy that was going to go cover it and speak to the school board for a pretty long period of time that the citizens had negotiated to have an outside speaker come in and talk to them a lot about masks. But I also talked about the contract with the district, which is now an 11-point plan to get school board members and candidates to be on the record on how they feel and where they stand on key issues affecting education in Ohio and the nation right now. Now, this county, Gallia County, is actually more Trump-loving than Claremont County. Look at this. 77% of people in Gallia County voted for Donald Trump in the November election. 77%. I think that's about 10 points higher than the percentage of people in Claremont County that voted for Donald Trump in the November election. But I had tried to do some research into this board a little beforehand, and it kind of smelled a little bit to me right from the get-go because of what I found relating to their minutes being online for their board meetings. In the meeting that I went to, this was the handout they had, and it's what you typically might see at a school board meeting. You notice for each of the items that they're going to take up, it has who made the motion, who made the second, and how each of the 5 school board members voted on a particular item. But I had gone and checked on their website some of their past minutes and found they don't put their minutes online. They put these sanitized things online where they remove from them any reference to who made motions, who made seconds, and any reference to how their board members voted. So a citizen going to the website can't tell how their board members voted on things that came before the school board. It's crazy. I got told by the locals that in order to see the actual minutes and how people voted, you need to go to the school office and get the minutes. I'll tell you what, this is the way a communist Politburo works. There's no need for recorded votes because we all agree on everything. This is also the way that the Ohio School Boards Association indoctrinates school board members to behave. I consider this sort of like a BLM for school boards, and it basically teaches them everybody's supposed to have kumbaya. We should all have kind of a Marxist view of the world where it's total consensus. There's no debate. There's no disputes. We're all just one big, happy, harmonious society. And it's wrong. We are a deliberative government. A deliberative society means we argue, we debate, we come to a vote, and even after the vote, we're still allowed to be dissenters. I'm still against Obamacare, even though Obamacare is in place in America. The Ohio School Boards Association is an organization that effectively is funded by taxpayer dollars, that when somebody gets on a school board, they go to, I think, a 3-day boot camp where they get indoctrinated as to how you're supposed to behave when you're a member of a school board. Just as an aside, I noticed when I was pulling down their logo that they have an event in Columbus from November 7th to 9th, 2021. I think it'd be really good if activists that are against CRT, against masking, against 1619 Project, that we descend on this. That we come and show teachers and people that are beholden to teachers' unions that we, the people who pay the taxes to fund these schools, are not good with being shortchanged in the whole process and ignored. So let's get back to my presentation before the school board. I'm going to put the whole video of the whole hour and 27 minutes of video that I captured during this event online on YouTube. So I'm not leaving anything out. You can go see every minute, every second of video that was shot during this event, unedited and raw. But what I'm going to have in this is about 8 minutes of video of me going through the contract with the district, standing down in front of the board members who are up on a stage. And as I go through the points of the contract with the district, I keep asking them, raise your hand if you agree with this one. Raise your hand if you agree with that one. And it's almost comical. They sit there giving me icy stares. It's like they're not allowed to raise their hand. They're afraid there's a sniper off stage or something's going to take them out if they actually let the citizens in the audience know how they feel about key issues on education. To me, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. These are elected people on a school board. They should be, they're politicians. They should be able to express what they believe. They should let the citizens know how they stand, what they fight for, what they fight against. So the contract with the district is 11 points. It was 10. We added a point for masking in schools. We thought we were past that, but apparently our governor, Mike DeWine, might be wanting to put the mask back on the kids in the upcoming school year, which is absurd. But the contract has 4 items that are things that go under the category of I will support and fight for. And it's asking board members and candidates to sign off. And they can sign off on all the points or they can selectively choose what points. There's 2 versions of the contract. As you watch the video, I'm not going to read through the points here. You'll hear me read through the points in the video. But I want you to pay close attention when I hit point number 2. And point number 2 is, I will support and fight for a fair, balanced, and accurate presentation of American history, which inspires good citizenship and participation based on the ideals of liberty, equality, and justice for all. The 5 board members are confused about whether they can raise their hand in support of that item. Think about that for a second. Okay, we had not our founding fathers, but the army that fought for our independence fought a war in the winter with no shoes and when they weren't getting paid. And we can't get board members in a county that voted 77% for Donald Trump to raise their hands in support of that statement. I will support and fight for a fair, balanced, and accurate presentation of American history, which inspires good citizenship and patriotism based on the ideals of liberty, equality, and justice for all. When you see what happens on that one and on the other points, you know in a county that's 77% Trump voting, if this is the way Board of Education members are reacting, how bad the rot is. If they won't fight in a county that is as red as this county, where do they ever fight? Where do they ever fight? I'm sure a lot of these people on this board tell people they're Republicans and stuff like this, and they support conservative values. But when asked to raise their hand on simple things, do you support it or not, they just sit there. And for the record, they had copies of this in front of them. I gave them each copies probably about 15-20 minutes before the meeting started. They also knew I was coming. They knew I was the speaker, and they knew that part of that was because of my presentation at the State Board of Education, which was specifically on the contract with the district. So it shouldn't have come as any surprise to them that this is something that I would bring up during this meeting. So I said there's 4 points that I will support and fight for. There's also 7 points now that are in the category of I will oppose and act against. I get kind of rushed at the end because they're trying to cut me off, but enjoy this video, and I want you to really think about what it says about the state of school boards and basically politicians in Ohio right now. At the same time this is going on, Ron DeSantis in Florida is saying absolutely no. At the top level, saying absolutely no to mask on kids in school this upcoming year. But enjoy this, or maybe be a little shocked. And as you watch it, remember this. August 4th is the filing deadline across the state of Ohio to run for school board. We need conservatives who are ready to fight for real values and real stuff, not kumbaya, you know, some sort of consensus Chinese-alike school system, but that indoctrinates both kids and apparently board members through the School Board Association. We need people to run. So August 4th is the deadline. When you watch this and you see what these school board members are like, you know, and I don't mean offense to them. I don't know them. You know, I don't know these people really, but they should watch this and have a wake-up call. Is how did I become like this? How did I become a person who can't raise my hand to say I support a fair and balanced presentation of American history? That is insane. So there you have it. Enjoy the video. Let's go through the contract, because I think masks aren't the only thing that's really affecting education right now. I bet you some of the things I'm going to read off this contract, some of you are concerned with also, not just masks. Yes, sir. Masks are just one of the issues that are coming up. So this contract is something for you guys to sign. Who's up for election? Raise your hand if you're up for election. Okay, 2 of you up for election. So it says on the contract, it's for them to sign, it says, I blank is a member or candidate for the school district board in the election to be held on November 2nd, 2021. That's when the election is. By the way, the filing deadline is August 4th. So if anybody wants to run, it's not running. August 4th is the filing deadline. Commit to each point below. 1, I will support and fight for academic excellence being the #1 measurement of district success, the preservation of advanced and accelerated programs, and in-person classroom instruction. By show of hands, how many of you support that? Why? Because you don't like your people?
No, I came here tonight to with preparation.
So I'm not allowed to ask you. So if you as a board choose not to be able to raise your hands when I ask certain things, do you support that or not? That's your prerogative. But you guys take note. This is not what the founding fathers fought for. Elected officials who refuse to raise their hands when I ask, do you support that or not? Let's go on to the second point. I will support and fight for a fair, balanced, and accurate presentation of American history, which inspires good citizenship and patriotism, based on the ideals of liberty, equality, and justice for all. How many of you support that? I got you back there.
Good job.
So,
There's good things on here, don't get me wrong.
well, then you can raise your hand. Why are you afraid to be transparent with your own citizens? You don't put your minutes online. I ask you to raise your hand if you support an idea. Can you believe, I don't know about this county, but in my county, a lot of, I don't know, these are nonpartisan races, but I live in a very Republican county. And I just asked the question, I support and will fight for a fair, balanced, and accurate presentation of American history, which inspires good citizenship and patriotism, based on the ideals of liberty, equality, and justice for all. And they got pissed, except for John. Okay? I'm exposing the emperor has no clothes. Who thought of America? When you're having a cookout at your house, do you tell people, oh, I don't agree with that? Let's go on to the third one. I will support and fight for parents' right to know and to consent to any counseling or treatment their child receives. How many of you agree with that? Okay, do you take your orders from somebody else? Does the school board association tell you how to vote on things? Would any of you like to take a minute to phone a friend and find out what your views are on some things that are important in your district? Let's go on to the next one. I will support and fight for fiscal accountability and stewardship that quantifies results and is not based on simple comparisons to spending in other districts. How many of you agree with that? John's afraid of his co-board members now. Okay, back there. So I don't know about you, but one of the things that bugs me in school districts is that if I go to my school district meetings, they always get the main comparison is how much we're spending compared to other districts. We're above or below the state standard for what we're spending, which is baloney. I worked in IBM for a lot of years. If I would have gone into my boss and said, well, instead of telling you about my actual results, I'm going to tell you how much we're spending compared to HP and Dell on different things, I would have got fired. It's not a measurement. So then there's actually 7 things now. I will oppose and act against biological males participating in female sports or permitted in women's bathrooms or vice versa. How many of you agree with that? John? I like you, John. But your board members, any of you? Mr. Superintendent, do you agree with that? Or you're not allowed to say? I bet you when you're having an executive session you say stuff. Number 6, I will oppose and act against critical race theory, the 1619 Project, and political bias in the curriculum or classroom that turns students against each other and or their country. How many of you agree with that? John's nodding his head. Is this a Republican county or is this a liberal Democrat county? Okay. Well, you told me when I sat out there that you were going to give me a little more than 20 minutes if I needed it. Okay? You guys held me up by not raising your hands. So let me hit the other ones. Number 7. I will oppose and act against comprehensive sexuality education, Planned Parenthood materials, transgender literature, and attempts to sexualize children through graphic, age-inappropriate presentation of human sexuality. I won't ask you, I know you're going to, other than John, the rest of you are afraid to answer questions. Number 8, I will oppose and act against social and emotional learning and whole child ideologies that prioritize feelings over rational thought, intrude on family values and privacy, and expose children to group or psychological manipulation. That's number 8. I'm trying to go fast. Number 9, I will oppose and act against a culture of entitlement that normalizes an ever-expanding role for schools beyond an educational mission and beyond a safety net for those in need. I don't know about here, but in my school district, any kid 18 and under can get free lunch delivered by FedEx to their house every week. It's crazy. Not based on need, just based on everybody should feel entitled. And finally, number 10, adoption, or I will oppose or act against the adoption or acceptance of any federal or state programs that might co-opt any of these commitments. And then finally, number 11, that Mr. Makita instructed me to add to the contract for you people here. Okay? Mask mandates on students, teachers, or parents in school or at school events. So those are the 11 items. And here's what I've done. What we've done is, there's a full version. If you agree with all 11 of them, you can just sign it. There's an opt-in version on the other side. You can check off which ones you actually agree with and leave the other ones blank. I thank you for the time to speak, okay? But I just want to tell you something. I just want you to have an example. All of us have an example. I'm actually a Republican executive in Claremont County, and I am stunned at how hollow and empty we have become in so many places in this state and the country. This is probably a Republican county like the county I'm from. But look at these people. They won't raise their hand for a fair presentation of American history. What has happened? The filing deadline to run for school board is August 4th. I'm not going to go up there because I'll probably get arrested, but they should sign this. Maybe John will sign it. Maybe other people need to run and point out that this is a mess when people that are supposedly making leadership decisions are afraid to raise their hand on simple statements like the one I like best is people wouldn't raise their hand.
We're 10% over. And so Mr. Hicks should politely leave the microphone.
Isn't it? Wouldn't it be nice that they would have as much fire for the items on this page as she has fire against me?
I do have some fire if I sit down. I will do it in my talk.
Thank you. Thank you for proving my privilege.